Hello, everyone. This is the Honolulu Nonprofit User Group, and this is specifically for Salesforce. And we're super excited today to take a little of a deep dive into flow. And we know that flow is on everybody's minds right now because there's a big push from Salesforce to get us off of workflow, approval processes, all the other stuff that we used to do for automation. So I'd like to welcome Bobby Wright, and Bobby is going to be presenting to us about the cool stuff that he's been doing around flow. And Bobby, before we start, I'd love for you to tell us a little bit about your background. How did you get into Salesforce? What was your journey like? And then how did you wind up doing what you're doing now with a lot of flow specific products for Salesforce?
For sure. So yeah, my name is Bobby Wright. I am out of Kansas City, Missouri, and I am a Salesforce consultant that I work specifically with nonprofit organizations to implement custom Salesforce solutions. And so I've been working in the nonprofit space pretty much my whole career, but I got into Salesforce just as an accidental thing with working for a small nonprofit out of Kansas City, an urban ag organization. About probably 12 years ago, I started just on my nights and weekends fiddling around in the setup menu inside of our Salesforce instance and trying to build things without paying for extra apps, without having a lot of resources to put into our development. And so I slowly built up my skills, moved into the consulting world, and primarily I focus on building custom solutions. And so like I'm mostly a developer and architect, and I get brought onto projects for building things for whenever we hit the limit of what we can build out of the box, which is like, once again, like the longer I've been in Salesforce, there's fewer and fewer things that you need that developer to come into a project for. Like when I got started, for sure, we were still in Classic, and when I was building custom things, I was going into Visualforce and building very complex solutions that had a lot of developer overhead. And so things like Flow these days, there's a lot of buzz out there on Flow. And yeah, from my experience, if I had Flow 12 years ago, I probably wouldn't have as much technical debt that I was still trying to help my small nonprofits maintain that I was volunteering for back 10 years ago. So very happy to see where Salesforce is taking Flow and giving us more point and click solutions for customizing our complex business processes. So that's my backstory. Oh, I think you might be muted there.
Yeah. I was going to say that's an awesome journey, and good on you for really taking some of these development ideas and really kind of taking it into a new direction, and especially with the whole nonprofit space. So I was wondering, what are you going to be showing us today?
So yeah, I am going to show you, and if I could share my screen, that'd be great.
Oh,
I think it's disabled here.
Me make you co-host. Here we go. All right.
Okay. So I share Google Chrome. Okay. Can everyone see my screen right now?
It's starting. It's still, it says started screen sharing, but it hasn't come up yet.
Correct. Same here.
Still dark.
Oh, wowzers. Yeah, it's giving me this weird thing too, where it's saying, oh, there's it goes.
There
Can
we
you see
go.
it? Okay, perfect. Okay, so yeah, I'm going to be talking about the Flow Toolkit. So my company, the name of my company is Common Unite. I'm an independent Salesforce consultant, like I said. And over the years, I have for sure fallen in love with Flow. I mean, many years ago, before even Flow got as big as it is currently, with Salesforce saying that they're going to get rid of workflow rules and process builder, I was really fascinated by how I could leverage my developer skills and work alongside system admins to build solutions inside Flow so that I could hand off some configuration and some abilities to customize my custom components that I develop for clients. And so that's what got me started down the path to developing the Flow Toolkit. And the Flow Toolkit is primarily designed to be a solution that would be comparable to like a form assembly tool or a form stacks tool. The uniqueness of our app, though, is that it is used inside of Flow. And so you use the Flow Toolkit in our form builder interface to build custom Flow screen components that you can drop onto your Flow screens to build out advanced forms and interfaces. So once again, going back from my experience as a small nonprofit system admin and developer, we use some third-party tools to build external facing forms. And a lot of times that's a whole nother stack to learn as far as like the technology of building those, of wiring together the integration to get inside of your Salesforce instance. And sometimes those solutions are very complicated. And if they're not complicated, they have limits to what you can do when it comes to querying your records, pre-filling your records, displaying values on the screen, and then inserting and updating related records. It can be really complex when you have a really complex solution to use one of those third-party tools. In my opinion, Flow is amazing when it comes to the ability to meet any complex need when it comes to pre-filling forms or inserting records. You have complete control over how you can drill into your database. Now you can find related records to display them on a screen. And then also you have control over that process of how records are inserted, how you can update values after the post-process. And so like when we got started building out our form builder solution, we knew that we wanted to use the power of Flow. And so we're layering on top of what you can already do with Flow, just some additional features that you can't currently do with standard Flow screen components. We believe that over the next few years, Salesforce themselves are going to be heavily investing in Flow screen components, as well as other ISV partners, that we think that we're going to start to see a lot of people moving out of external third-party form builder tools and inside of Flow because of just the power that you get there. And it eliminates a need for an integration. So here, I'm on the website, and let me reverse here and say, as I'm going through this presentation, feel free to ask any questions. I'm not going to probably have the chat open. So if anybody sees any questions directly that you want me to drill into deeper, I will for sure go into that. I think we only have a few people here, so we can have a decently intimate session here. But here I'm on my website. So if you want to test out what the Flow Kit can do, pop onto our website. It's commonunite.force.com. This is an Experience Cloud site. And this is one of the other things that's really nice about using flows, is that they are easy to expose to your external clients, people that might be wanting to see data in your system. You can spin up an Experience Cloud site and put a guest user on it, and that is free to any nonprofit to do that. Really cool feature here. So I'm going to pop into some examples of things that you can do inside Experience Cloud very easily. So this is just a simple page that we have for making a volunteer application. And over here is our flow that we have with some custom questions and some dynamic pieces here. We have some custom buttons. But another thing that you can do, and this just comes out of the box with Experience Cloud, is you can use CMS record collections to display records that are inside of your system. And this utilizes a list view with list view features to display records that people can click on and potentially sign up for these volunteer jobs. So that's a really cool thing that, once again, we're trying to leverage standard Salesforce stuff to make more advanced interactive form experiences that are harder to achieve with other third-party tools. So some key features in the Flow Toolkit here are our custom buttons. So if you've ever worked with a third-party tool, You usually get like a standard button at the bottom of the screen. With the Flow Toolkit, you can build as many buttons as you want within your flow here. And where that becomes valuable, if you've ever built a flow, and you're familiar with the decision element, you can catch which button was clicked from within this screen. And depending on which button is clicked, you can do a different action within the screen. So it's really cool. So if I click on this button, it'll just show you here. I'm catching that button click, and I'm just showing it here that the Start Giving wizard was selected. Depending on what my business process is, I might show people a different screen. I might do a different action. I might insert or update records in a different process. And so that's a really cool feature within the Flow Toolkit. We can also just to choose whether or not we display our buttons somewhere within the flow. It's in the screen itself. So right here, we're displaying the buttons above our form component. Down here, we're displaying the buttons in a fixed footer. And that's really helpful for having like our submit buttons so that they're always visible on the screen. Things like this, these are just some of the standard things that you would expect in a form builder, is the ability to add fields and to customize labels. There's some unique things about our tool where, since we're inside of Salesforce, when it comes to adding these fields into your form components, a lot of it just is set by the defaults. And so however you configure your fields on your object schema. So if I make new fields on my contact or on my account object, when I drop them into my form components, it's going to just default to their standard labels and to their standard pick list values. But with the form builder, which I'll show you later, you can override all of those defaults so that you can customize how your fields are displayed to your external users within those components. So it's a really cool feature there. Another thing that we have, if you want to use lookup fields within your form solutions, we have this ability to add custom lookup tables. And so what that means is, here, this is a lookup to the parent account on this component here. Inside of the flow, I could mark this lookup field as a custom lookup. And whenever you do that, you get this nice little lookup button over here. And if I click on that, it will load for me a collection of records that I pass into my flow. And so if you think about this, something that you could do is you could query all of your, let's say we're working on a volunteer solution, and we want people to be able to select their volunteer group account, and say you have either a record type or maybe an account type value that you use to mark accounts as this is a volunteer group. You can go inside of Flow, you can query those records, pass them into this table, and give your external users a subset of records to select from. So if I select this will go back and this will populate that. This is essentially giving us a more dynamic and advanced way of using lookup filters. And so on our lookup fields, right, when we configure those, we have the ability to set some lookup criteria on that, but it's static for the whole entire org, right? No matter where you're using it, you're going to have those same lookup filters. We're giving you the ability for every different flow that you have. You can have different lookup filters on those lookup fields. So really, really cool solution, and can be used in a lot of ways to customize how users find those related records. This includes things, the Flow Toolkit has some auto masking features that you can have for phone number fields. We allow you to build out conditional logic with inside of your form components. And so what that means, this is standard, right? When you have most form builder tools, if I select one of these values, I can dynamically show a field based on a value selected. And so that's where I'm able to hide and show our account description. So that's built into that automatically. A thing that we have inside of the Flow Toolkit, and this is once again giving more features that you don't have the ability to do inside of Flow right now, is we give you the ability to override how your pick list values function. So this industry field is a standard field on the account object. It's a pick list field that has multiple values here. Within the form builder, we can select pick list overrides to display those values differently. So I'm actually going to pop over here. Let me know if you can't see my screen. Can everybody still see my screen okay?
Yes, we can
Okay,
see.
great. Okay, so I'm going to hop over here into this component that we're looking at here. So this is the form builder. This is where you go to build these custom flow screen components that you can drop onto any of your flows. And so I'm going to pull open this component that we're looking at here. I believe it's this account details global component. Okay, so there that is. So this is our component that has those fields. And we're looking at this industry field. If I pop into this section and I go down into my industry field, this is my field. I'll go into more details about this later. I just want to highlight this because this is a really cool feature. By default, your pick list will show up just like what you would see them within inside of Salesforce on a Lightning record page or on a page layout. So that's what our default pick list looks like. But we give you in the Flow Toolkit the ability to override those. And so one of the things that you can do is you can turn those into radio pick list easily. You then have the ability to set how you want those displayed. If you set that to auto, it will just line them up along the section there. But I can also adjust to say, oh, I want to see those in 2 columns, or maybe I want to see them in 4 columns just to customize it. So really cool feature. There's some other things in here as well. These aren't going to look very good because there's so many values, but you can display them as buttons, which usually only works for a pick list where you have like under 5 values. You can also display your pick list as icons. So we'll talk about this when I show you my survey, my survey extension that I have. Let me zoom out of my window here. You can also display your options as a path. So really cool there. The other example that I have down here for overriding pick list fields is the dreaded multi-select pick list, which I would still say that I wouldn't implement multi-select pick lists. If you can help not implementing them, that's great. But whenever you have a client that absolutely needs one, this is the standard pick list that you get out of the box for multi-select pick list fields. And so sometimes that's not a very optimal list, especially if you have a lot of options to be able to have to scroll through there and find what you're looking for. And so we give you the ability to easily override that, display those as multi-select checkboxes, and the same thing applies here. So you have the control over how many columns it's displaying. You can line them up, you can display them in 2 columns. And so that is how that works right there. I'm going to pop back over here into my my demo. And so, yeah, some other cool features here. When you drop your fields into sections, you can decide whether or not those sections are grouped under accordions. You have the ability to say whenever this accordion is loaded, should it be loaded as open or should it be loaded as automatically closed? Here's an example down here of this accordion was loaded closed, but I can open that up to reveal additional fields that maybe aren't required, but if someone wants to fill them out, there those are to create a user experience to get people to focus on what's important. That is a cool tool right there. Our address fields that you can drop into your flow include the Google API. And so what's nice about that is like if I search for an address here, I can type in Salesforce. It will though find that Salesforce tower. I can select that. And just like how you do this internally inside Salesforce, that will fill out your address fields. Is there a Salesforce Chicago in here? No, but that's how that value works. We also give you the ability to, once again, I've mentioned this thing about conditional rules, but this is another example of how this works here. I can use conditional rules to show fields to say, oh, shipping is the same as the mailing address. I only want to show the mailing address. And that's built into our components so that you can easily make better user experiences inside of your external facing forms. This is that other example of our additional fields. This is another place, right, where we have a pick list field and we're just easily converting that into these pick list buttons so that you have another way of displaying pick list values. If you've used any other third-party form builder tools, one of the things that you might have configured in the past is this idea of a repeatable section where you want to give your external users the ability to create multiple records within the same screen and see and edit those values. And so that's what this component right here is demoing for us, is our form repeater component. And what that allows us to do is pass in a collection of fields, all of the design, all of your conditional rules into a component here. And then you can allow your external users to create as many records as you define within your flow. And so this one here is defined to allow someone to create up to 5 contacts on this component right here. And as I click those new buttons, it will keep adding additional components on the screen here. You can also give the people the ability to remove records from that list. You can give people the ability to clone values, but it's all configurable within inside of your flow. How this works with record processing is whenever this screen moves forward, this component right here is going to pass you back a collection of records that you can then decide whether or not you're going to insert records, update records, or remove records. So you have all the control over how you do that. We provide some nice outputs that make that process easier. That if I have time, I will show you what that looks like. Another way that you can use the repeater component is to display your records as visual selectors here. And so these are actual records in our system that we're passing into the repeater, and we're using that to dynamically show information. These are merge fields that we're bringing in from those records to make these. I have some better examples in our Volunteers for Salesforce extension. Are there any questions right now about where we are basically with just some of the basic features that you can do with the Flow toolkit, and trying to sell this idea of there's flows are really cool. There's a lot of things that are missing currently in Flow screens that limit us to be able to leverage Flow for external facing forms to get data into our Salesforce instances.
Hey, Bobby, I had a quick question. Is what you're showing and demoing today basically the features that are part of the paid package and not like the free tool that folks can use?
Everything in the Flow toolkit is, if you're using the free version, features as far as buttons, as far as the repeater, all of that's included in every package. What we limit you to with the free version is just the objects that you can use. And so right now we're showing just the account and contact objects. And so the free version lets you create form components on the account, contact, case, and lead objects. And so some of your primary objects that you'll use inside of your orgs. And so if you just need to create lead components, lead forms, account and contact forms, or case forms, this right here is just using accounts and contacts. So you could rebuild this with the free version for sure. And I'll go into more detail on our packages here towards the end of the presentation here. So, okay.
Thank you.
Great. So I'll just highlight some things here. The Flow toolkit also includes a table builder solution that you can build tables. These are some of the things that Salesforce Wright is pushing. So hopefully you've been playing with the new standard table component with inside of Flow. It's a really cool feature that allows you to display lots of records to the users. The main difference within our tool is that you can use your form components to edit records and to add new records. And so if I click new on this, it's kind of working like our repeater is, where we can pass in a collection of fields and allow people to edit and add records right inside of Flow. And so the way I'm having people think about this is it's almost like a custom page layout or a quick action that you're building for Flow to edit those records. There's no inline editing. It's more like how you would expect this to work inside of Salesforce for adding records and editing records. And that all works with the form components. You can also turn your tables into hierarchy tables. And so if you've ever had a need for, what do we have? We have this in the accounts, we have contact hierarchies, I think we have case hierarchies. But if you have another custom object where you want to show records in a hierarchy, you can use our table components to build out these custom hierarchies to show records how they relate to each other up and down a hierarchy chain. This is another example of the repeater. Once again, you can create all sorts of different components, and you pass that component in to show records in different formats to your external facing users. So these are just our demo accounts. And we're just showing the names, phone numbers, and then a map of those. So that's really cool. Just other highlights, our custom buttons have reCAPTCHA enabled on them. And so you have the power whenever a user clicks a specific button, whether or not you want to engage the reCAPTCHA verification and catch what the response is. I won't go into too many details about that, but that's a cool feature. I'll hit on surveys a little bit later in more detail, but one of the things that we have coming out is a survey extension, and this will also be a part of our free licenses. If you use our custom survey object, you can build surveys. And what's nice about our survey features is they leverage, if you use pick list fields, this is that magical thing that you can turn pick list into icon selectors, and you can select tons of different icons that Salesforce makes available to create experiences like this for creating surveys. The other thing I'll hit on, I don't have a lot of clients users, but some clients that are doing shopping cart type things, we have a shopping cart component that you can drop onto flows to give your people the ability to add items. These can be returned inside of flow as orders and order products, or opportunity and opportunity line items. And they utilize products and price books in order to build out these components very easily for you. This also allows you to do things like ask custom questions based on certain types of products. And so if I add this one, for example, my door hangers, it just adds to my shopping cart, but I can configure on this Vote t-shirt product, oh, this requires additional information. So like when this gets added to a cart, I have to go through here and select the t-shirt sizes and the color of the t-shirt that I want. This information gets stored on my order item so that when I want to fulfill these orders, I can get that specific information on my order line items. I think that's about it there. I'll probably show just some other highlights of just ways that you can expose these forms within Experience Cloud site. So this is once again another example of, you can put these nice headers in here, you can put detailed text, and you have all that control. I can drop videos on my screen, and then I can drop these flows right onto these screens so that I can give people the ability to, for this example, I'm making a voter registration sign up form that allows groups to say they want to do a voter registration drive. You can add different Canvas members, you can have people order outreach supplies, and they can submit that. So just a good example there. I'm going to pop over here. I'm going to hit this because it's something that I've been working on lately, is working with the program management module. If you have any of your nonprofits, or if you're a nonprofit consultant and you're using the program management module, the form builder and the flow toolkit works really well with being able to build these custom application forms that allow your people to join programs and to sign up for them. And so here's a flow over here. This is a stage indicator component that just shows you the progress that you're going through this form here. This is a form component that's really nice, that allows us to build into this flow our income guidelines that we might have for this project. And so we're showing our federal HUD income guidelines for reference here. But the component itself is leveraging a formula field to do this calculation live on demand. And so if I have 4 people, my total household income can't be more than $4,625. And so as I go through and I add my income that totals it up, I can see that total down there. Once we go over that mark right there, though, we're getting close. We got another $500. It will show, oh no, my household is not qualified, because it's referencing a formula field that knows how many household people I have and what my total income is. Based on that formula field, we can also choose to whether or not we want to show the buttons to continue within this form here. And so if I adjust this back down to maybe $5 here, I can see I now qualify, and then my button pops up. This is all configurable with inside of Flow to determine whether or not I want to show or hide buttons in this process. When I click next, this can go to my step 2 in my process. It can load my person here. Testing. If you use I forget what the name of those fields are inside of Salesforce. Are they called password fields or are they called secret fields? But either way, if you use one of those fields that's has secret keys on them, you can actually mask those values so that it's not showing up there. Can use these different values to pop in things here. I can pop in my birth date. This is an example of this age field is a formula, and it is live calculating that based on whatever age whatever birth date we put in here. So if I take this on down here, we have another conditional rule that if a person is over 18, that we require contact information. So I can show these other fields here. Dun, 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 dun. Here's my mass phone numbers. Here's our other example of our address verification. And here's an example of how we're using our data table with inside of our flow screen here. If I needed to collect additional household members, you can throw in a table, you can have a custom button that says add household member. And this is what's great about the Flow toolkit is I can leverage the same component that I'm using to collect my primary household information, that the same stuff, I can use that same component in my table. And this is very valuable when it comes to considering administrative debt and technical debt. The Flow toolkit, when you build these components, you can drop the same components into multiple flows, into multiple solutions within inside of your flow. And where that's valuable is if this ever changes, where we as an organization need to collect some additional information for all of our contacts that we're filling out program applications for, you go to this one component and you add the field or make the change to the logic, and all of your flows or all of your components that reference this particular component will be updated. That's a problem that I've had with other third-party form builder tools is I've had to implement maybe 40 or 50 different program applications, and they all are kind of siloed to where when I make a change org-wide to how we collect information, maybe demographic information, that is a lot of places where I have to go and make changes to. With the Flow toolkit, we're trying to get people to see that they can make modular components that can be referenced multiple places within inside of Flow. So really cool solution here. Let me just drop this in. Testing value. So a birth date. When I click confirm, you'll see that that comes back into the collection there. You can always open that back up and edit that. There's our values. People can also clone those. It will bring those values in to make a new one. So really cool features. I can go to the next screen and just keep showing my custom application process for filling out details here. Let's fill these in fast. This is a nice feature as well. Within your fields, you can set minimum and maximum values so that this one right here, we can say has this program, you can only request a maximum of $1,000. And so if we go over that or under that, it will give us that validation error. Testing. Click submit application. And that could take us to our final thing. At this point, we can insert all of our records maybe into the program engagement object. And so once again, just another example of a cool solution that you can build with Flow, with Experience Cloud, and with objects that we're already using.
Bobby, I'm sorry to interrupt, but are you able to show us how easy it is to actually drop this into the Experience Cloud instance?
So here I am in. This is, if you've not ever worked with Experience Cloud, I'm not going to go into too much of that, but I've worked with a lot of clients and I would just build a single page. And so this isn't a page on Experience Cloud. Let me grab this. This is the name of my flow. And so we have for you a component that comes with the flow toolkit. And if you have a page that you want to just drop a flow onto, you grab that component on. This is dynamic. And so what can happen is you don't have to give it a name, but if you save this page, you can pass in the name of the flow into the URL and it will load that flow for you. You can also pass in other URL parameters and your flow can collect those. Then you can use those to query related records. But if I want to display a specific flow on this page, because it's our program application, I can paste in the API name of the flow and it will just load that for you right there. So that's how easy it is to drop this form into your Experience Cloud page because we're inside of Salesforce. Let me show you what this looks like for I think my survey solution here. So this is another Experience Cloud page, and this is what I wanted to show you is in this particular page, I made this page as an example of, oh man, I wish I could get this zoom out of the way, as an example of a page that you can use for multiple external facing forms. This is a template that comes within the Flow Toolkit that lets you to put in a fixed header. You can put your organization's logo up top, and especially if you're working with a fixed button, it just looks really nice and clean for external facing forms. What's nice about this, if you can see inside of our URL up here right now, I'm passing in a URL parameter, flow name, and this is equivalent to saying what form do I want to load. And so if I select this one down here, this flow is called flow form demo. I can load that up. It's using the same Experience Cloud page, but I'm passing in that flow that we saw on the features page. And I'm also passing in the ID of the account. And that's what we're using to pre-fill these fields so that we can see these related contact records for our demo account right here. So that's very easy to do with Experience Cloud and the Flow Toolkit here. Where are we? Time? We've got 15 minutes. Anything else you want to see related to Experience Cloud?
Well, I was just curious, like I said, how that worked. Is all of this in your like tutorials and support pages as well for end users?
For sure. There's a, if it's not in there, there's a lot of information on the page. So if you click through these tabs, there's a lot of information on how to do some of this stuff. And then if you go into our watch demo, actually, I think it's right over here. There's a admin guides, how-to videos. If you want any specific, I want to create this and how would I do it? That's a lot of the ways that I am doing support right now is reach out to me with our contact us tab here. And I can show you how to achieve it. Like I said, most of the things that are inside the Flow Toolkit is leveraging standard flow features and standard Experience Cloud stuff. What I'm giving you is a nice, easy interface for decoupling your complex flows from the components. And so that's what I want to go into next, is to show you how the form builder works and why it's valuable to simplifying exposing flows to folks. And so here's our contact support component. Once again, it's just a flow that we're using to create our case records inside of our system. But I've usually been, if people want to see how to do something special inside of Flow, I'll build a video and I'll add it into our collection so other people can reference that in the future as well. So inside of Salesforce, we've already kind of seen this, but this is what the form builder looks like. And so you're not actually building your flow components inside of Flow. We give you this interface. You have a lot more room. It's not as congested as what you experience inside of Flow. And so here is a list of all of the objects that I have components built on. Right now I'm on my lead object, and I have these 4 different components that I built for my lead object. And so I might have different programs or different ways that I want to collect lead information. I would go into these components and I would customize that in here. And as you see, this is styled for the actual lead. The Flow Toolkit gives you the ability to create custom themes that you can apply to your components. And so that's how we're getting these different colored backgrounds. I'm going to drop into my requested demo. I think that's more advanced. You got a lot of different information here that we've dropped onto this component. And then I'll go to my volunteer information component here. So when it comes to building out a component, let me actually just click the new button. We'll start from a brand new empty component. You would go to your object, you click the new button, and there's nothing on here. It loads up with a standard just new section here. I can go into this section. I can add a icon to my header. I'm actually gonna go back and I'm gonna add in also our theme to our component here. And do I have a lead theme? I know I do. There it is. It's my lead theme. I'll brand it for my leads there. Okay. I don't actually know why that's not working. It's because it is white. Change that logo color on that. It's not that important, but you can add custom headers. You can add subtitles. You can also remove the header if you don't want to show a header on your section. When it comes to adding fields, this is very easy. Here's our field section. And here are all of the fields that we have on the lead object for creating this component. And so you can filter and find the fields that you want. And as you find them, you can move them over into that section. They will instantly be dropped onto your form preview over here. So if I find some more over here, last name, maybe I want to find the title. And so this is that example of earlier what I was talking about. When you add fields to your components, they're going to be defaulted to the standard values that come out of your object schema. When you want to override that, I'm going to add a couple more fields here. Say email, phone. Does this one work? Is this a real field? Nope. There we go. So there's my fields. To rearrange your fields within inside of your component, you're just using this field section. And so I could move this field just up and down that chart right there. And that's how these move around. I can move the phone field up. When you want to adjust the sizing and specific customizations for your fields, you drill down into these sections. These are those 5 different fields we have. You can mark those fields as required just by doing that. You could make them read-only, where they're not able to put information in by selecting that checkbox. If you want to go and change the sizing, you have the ability to set different sizes based on whether or not someone's accessing this from a desktop, from a tablet, or from a mobile device. That's what small, medium, and large are. And so if I want to make this 3, I can set my title small. I can set my first name to 4, and my last name 5. There we go. And so that's how I am able to line those fields up. But if I was wanting to see what that looks like on a medium device, I can switch that and see, oh, now it's stacked again. So it gives you these ability to see what it looks like on your different devices here. And let's change our phone field to 6 and our email to 6 as well. You can now do things like, oh, I want to add in a divider section. So I'll grab that divider, and there's that. I want to now add another section of fields. And maybe this other section is address fields. So if I add that address field, this is how this comes in. I'm going to hide that header. These get defaulted because we're on the lead to the standard lead address fields that can go in there like that. If I wanted to add conditional rules to this, I could go over here to the new rules. I could add in a rule and say, let's say title is blank. Here's all my fields on my lead again. Here's my title. Okay, so now I have my rule. I can now use that rule in multiple places throughout my form. So if I go into my section here with my fields, I can say I only want to see phone and email. If the title is blank, which is not really something that you'd probably want to do, but just to show you how this works. So you go down to the display condition section, title is blank. I could re-reference that. And so if I start typing, they disappear. So this is the nice piece of you're bundling up your field designs, you're bundling up your conditional rules, and then you're dropping this into your flow components. You can add those same conditional rules onto sections themselves. So if I'm inside this section, for the whole entire section, I can hide it by assigning that title value. So testing again, now I'm hiding full sections as well as fields based on that. So once you get I'm not gonna be able to go into many more details on the configuration, but there's a lot of cool things in here on how you can override your fields. We give you a lot of ability to just customize how your users interact with your fields. You can add custom prompt messages, you can add in formatting, you can trigger formula recalculations based on user input. But I want to show you really quickly how, if we save this, I'm going to call this testing new lead, how we can now drop this into a flow with just a couple clicks. So I'm going to click save. So your form components that you build with inside the Flow toolkit, they are saved as metadata records. And that is very valuable when it comes to deploying from environment to environment and not needing to leverage like actual records, because when that comes to using records, you'll have to deploy those records or migrate those records from sandbox to sandbox when you're spinning off new developer sandboxes. And so with the Flow toolkit, all of your forms will just go with your sandboxes because it's stored metadata records. So that metadata was deployed there. So I'm going to pop over here into my flows. And so we include with the Flow toolkit this form builder template. You don't have to use it. It's mostly designed to start with some buttons in our get URL parameters. So I have that loaded over here. So this get URL parameters component, you drop this onto a screen if you know that you're going to expose this flow and you want to be able to pass in URL parameters. And so what that means is you could send your clients a custom link with maybe some like record type IDs, status values, pre-field values that you want to use to either query related records or set some defaults whenever you make those. This is not doing anything here in the template, but you can use those. The thing I was going to show you here is these are the values that come back. You can pass in up to 10 URL parameters and pull those out of your URL when you load this in a site page. These are examples of how to configure buttons inside of the Flow toolkit. And so this is a save progress button that we have. Actually, let me show you our submit form button. This is how you configure that. This is what the button will look like. You can add in a custom icon to the button. You can add in custom modals so that if you click on the button, we can show them text and force them to confirm whether or not they want to continue before they actually configured that button. So it's a really cool feature. I recommend that you go look at our button configuration section in our website to see how you can utilize custom buttons. But you just configure buttons and you connect them together, and that's how we're lining up buttons within inside of our screen. If we wanted to add this lead form to our org here, I'm going to get rid of this for now. I think this is our docked footer buttons. These over here, these are our custom components that come with the Flow toolkit. They all say form in front of them, and they'll have the detail of like what that component is. If we wanted to add our lead form, all we have to do is drag that onto the screen, give it a name, my new lead form, select the object that you built your form on. So we're going to find our lead. It's then going to populate the list of all of our form components that we built on the lead object. And here's the new one that we just created, testing new lead. it's going to show a preview window. There's all of our fields that we have. We can either decide, yes, this is our form. When you commit, it will commit to that record, or we can go look for another one. I can find this contact information component. Oh, no, not that one. Maybe I'll try my volunteer information. Once you select your correct component, you click commit, and then that's all you have to do. You click commit after that screen right there. If it's just something that for sure like a lead, this could be very simple, that you say insert lead with an insert element. We can go see there's my new lead form. It's going to be passing back these record values. Typically, you'll just use this record right here. There's use cases for only returning the visible fields without null, and so forth. But typically, you pass that the record output into your insert. Click save, because this is a template. I'm going to say testing new lead. And I'm going to click debug just to show that form popping up there. So here are my docked buttons that come with that template. Here's my volunteer application because we selected that form. Testing. And Guardian. Next page, and that should insert. Oh, but of course it didn't. So yeah, there's things missing on that form, but that's to show you the simple piece of how you can drop these components into a flow. And then in the future, when it comes to making edits to this form, you don't have to get inside the flow. The flow primarily at this point is just handling your pre and your post processing. Any of your like changing fields or maybe adding different details around your form components, that happens in the form builder. And so if you're maybe not comfortable with working with flow, this makes it really nice for leveraging the power of flow, maybe passing off some of that work to developers or system admins that are comfortable with flow. And then folks that are not as comfortable with flow can still help maintain external facing forms by using the form builder. Any questions on where we are right now?
Yeah, Bobby, I'm trying to wrap my head around all of this. It's very impressive. So from a configuration standpoint, are you first working in the form builder and you're building it, and then if you go inside Salesforce on the back end into flows, you'll see what you just built?
Sure. That's what we just showed right there, right? Where we built that form component. We deployed it, and whether we have old components that we built or we deployed it, adding those components into your flow whenever you're ready to build out the actual automation on your flow, you just come to a screen, you grab your form component, or if you want to use a repeater, or if you want to use the table, you drag those onto the screen, you give us an API name, and then you just go, oh, like I'm building out a form and I need contact and I need account information. So I'm going to select my account object, and I've already created some account components that are allowing me to collect information. So let's say this is a volunteer application. I want to collect my volunteer group information. So I have a volunteer group component that stores information on the account. We're not having to do any type of field mapping, right? Because our component here knows that this is the account name field, this is the account phone, and the account description. All we have to do is drop that onto the screen, and this component is going to handle all of the mapping, all of the storing of the data and passing that into your insert element. And so I can arrange this on the screen just by moving this up.
Okay, so
Mm,
you're building it here on the back end so that it displays on the front end?
The
Which,
back, yeah. So the front end
the front end,
is the simplified form builder for where do we go? Got too many tabs open right now.
so in order to see this, you gotta
Mhm.
build it in Flow first.
You don't
on the-
have to build in Flow first, no.
Oh.
In order to expose it to your external users so that they can actually create records in your system,
Mhm.
you have to drop these forms into Flow. Flow is handling your inserting and your updating of your records. But you can design your forms. You could have people make your form components. And then when you're ready to expose those to external folks, then you drop those onto the Flow. The Flow is what you're using to query records and insert records.
Mm.
Okay. So I think what last couple minutes, I just want to show some other things that we're working on around making this process even easier for people. So one of the things that we have the ability to do with the Flow toolkit and with Flow is that we can package up solutions to give clients a starting point so that once again, if you're not super comfortable with Flow yet, or just even like not wanting to have to start from zero, we're building some extension packages that allow you to just drop in these solutions right into your org. And if you don't need any customization, you can use them right out of the box. So one of those extensions is our survey object that I mentioned earlier. It comes with a custom object, and it's going to come with a single flow that allows you to leverage this flow for multiple different types of surveys. And so this is a campaign. It's based off the campaign object. You set on the campaign which survey that you want to collect for that campaign. And so these are all different surveys that I have configured with inside of this campaign. If I select a different survey, it's going to work just like it does in Flow. It says, oh, I want to commit this. This is the survey I want to collect here. If I now go into my site here, let me go back to this. As you can see here, we are passing in just the name of our generic survey flow, and we're just changing out the campaign ID. And so this what allows you to do is use like a marketing cloud or any kind of just custom email template to send a custom link to this campaign to your constituents so they can fill out a custom survey. But if I go and change this to maybe this presentation feedback, I'm not doing anything to my flow. I'm not doing anything in my components. I'm just switching that on the campaign, and that's being updated. And if I can make all sorts of different campaigns and collect different types of surveys, and I'm reducing my technical and administrative debt by leveraging the same flow to insert surveys that have different branding and different styling and different questions. These surveys, though, this is what's built inside of the Flow, the form builder and the Flow toolkit, where you're adding different questions, you're saving that, and then we're just referencing that on our campaign. So that's a really cool feature. It's an extension package that we should have available hopefully in a couple of weeks, but we're pretty focused on our other solution, which is a Volunteers for Salesforce extension right here. And so this is what comes with the Volunteers for Salesforce extension. If your org uses Volunteers for Salesforce, it comes with some flow, standard flows that you can override and customize. But this is one of the flows that we're including in a custom flow component. It's a way that you can pass in jobs and shifts and accounts and campaigns, and you can organize those jobs into this nice visual selector here. We're giving you the ability to add custom filters. So if your org has some special fields on your volunteer job object, you can push those into this with our form builder solution. When a volunteer accesses this, they can click on these. That will take them to a sign-up page that gives more details about this particular job. Okay, there's my overview. Here's where the location has specific details. You can see we're using our table to show a list of upcoming shifts. They can register. We're using custom buttons to show if they can register as a group or as an individual. when it actually comes time to registering, here is our volunteer application, more details about the job. And then this comes with as well, this nice volunteer shift selector. So when you want to give people the ability to sign up for multiple shifts for a job, that comes with this volunteers for Salesforce extension. So where we see ourselves going in the future is building out more solutions like this, where if you install this volunteers for Salesforce extension, you're going to have some flows, some form components that are already pre-configured, where you can just go in and make tweaks to them to match your organization's business processes so that you can spin up really advanced flow and Salesforce features quickly. So we're working on the volunteers for Salesforce right now. Like I said, we've had a survey extension that we've been working on for a while. And I think the next thing is for us to build some templates for some common program management module solutions. And so this is that example of I didn't mention this earlier, but just thinking back about this idea of leveraging flow, what's valuable about flow is like you can use the same flow internally that you do externally. And so if you wanted your internal users to be able to have the way to easily take a phone call and add people to a program, you can drop that flow right onto the screen that your external people are using that has just a better interface for getting the information into your system. And so that is, I think, all the time that I have, and also mostly what I have to say. If you haven't already, like I said before, pop onto our website, commununite.force.com. You can also find us on LinkedIn. I post a lot on LinkedIn, just different demos, and I'm pretty active with answering questions on the Flow Toolkit. If you have an org that wants to use this, you can either go find us on the App Exchange, and it's the Flow Toolkit Form and Table Builder, or you can download the latest version from our website and the Get It Now tab. Like I mentioned earlier, we have a free version, so anybody can use the Flow Toolkit as long as you're using just the account, contact, case, and lead object. If you're a nonprofit and you have 10 users or less, and you want to use any custom object, it's just $30 a month for your entire org to use the Flow Toolkit. So if you're a small nonprofit with a small user base, it's a very affordable tool, especially consider that a lot of the other form builder tools are getting very expensive these days. If you're a much larger nonprofit or a for-profit organization, it's still very affordable. It's $150 per month for the entire org. These are not user-based licenses. A single license will cover everybody in your entire org. So that is what I have. Is there any questions? Our last few minutes here.
Thank you for being so thorough. That was a great presentation.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that was quite impressive. So your tutorials, then we just go to your website and we can go to the admin guides.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
For sure. So like one of the things I tell people is our whole entire site, pretty much everything you see here is a flow. And so if you see it on the screen and if you can click on stuff and interact with it, it's a flow, and it's usually in the Flow Toolkit. And so that's just a good way to see what you can build. And if you have questions, or if you want to hop on a call with me, I'm very open right now to working with people on just building out demos for this stuff. And so reach out to me on LinkedIn, reach out with a support call here, and we can schedule a calendar events to work one-on-one with some stuff right now. So. Mm-hmm. But there is for sure a lot of good information. Just looking at our guides here, if you click, for example, on our form buttons section, it will outline how to configure stuff. But if you're this type of a learner or you want to read detailed documentation, then this is the way to go. I've been working in Flow for a long time, and so some of it just comes intuitive to me. So like if you're used to working with custom components, if you're used to working with say components off of unofficial Salesforce, it's usually always the same type of structure. There's a custom property editor, and the property editors, which is also nice, like you can play with the property editor inside of the site here, just to show you what happens when you are working on this inside of well, so here's an example of I can enable this modal, and that can show me what that looks like when I'm editing this stuff. But yeah, I think the documentation is pretty good. There's a lot of, maybe if you need more advanced, trying to meet an advanced need, reach out and I can see if I can help you put that together.
Okay.
Mhm.
Wow. Thank you, Bobby. That was,
Mhm.
now I'm wondering, in terms of your prediction, if this is the direction that, you think Salesforce is going to be going, or
Mhm.
these types of tools, that's going to upset the apple cart for those third-party vendors like Form Assembly and, all
Sure.
those.
Sure. Unless Form Assembly builds some components that can be dropped on the flow. And so for sure, if I was an ISV, if I wasn't already thinking we need to convert our components to make them available in flow, it's like, that's for sure something that I think needs to happen. Because even in my custom development work, my custom architecture work, there's not a lot that I'm not building inside of Flow. If a client comes to me and they need a custom solution, I'm telling them we need to build it in Flow, because it's in the future, we're going to be able to integrate Flow screen components together to combine them. So one of the things about a Form Assembly solution or any type of other third-party app is you're stuck with what you can do with their solution. With
Right.
Flow, if you can't do it with the standard component or with the component inside the Flow toolkit, you can either find another ISV that has a specific component that meets your need, and you can just drop that onto the screen, and everything continues to work. It's very extendable. But you can also hire a developer to build any number of really custom things that meet your specific business process if you want to invest in that. And you don't have to lose all of the great features inside of Flow. Flow is gonna, I for sure believe we're going to see more ISVs that are pushing their components into this. We're going to be able to combine multiple components together to build advanced solutions like this.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Awesome. All right. Well, does anybody have any questions for Bobby before we sign off? We have about 3 more minutes. Okay. So, well, thank you, everyone. Thank you, Bobby. This was extremely, I'm just, my jaw's dropping a little bit. It just seems very, I mean, the thought that went into creating this, in terms of all the bells and whistles that you have is pretty impressive. Curious, how long has it taken you are you the sole developer? Are you working with the team, or how is this thing?
Yeah, for sure. Sole developer. I have a
Wow.
couple friends I'm trying to get to. I love building stuff, and I am very much trying to find some other partners that are more into the business mind and the marketing side, because that's been most of my transition lately, is I've had to focus on marketing and getting the information out there about the app. But I would love to stay focused on building out extensions. A whole goal of mine is to stick within the nonprofit space, to make Salesforce affordable, easy to implement for small nonprofits, that they get this magical tool of Salesforce for free, but it's still very difficult to get a lot of things up and going if it's not just out of the box in the NPSP package. And so wanting to build out solutions that can turn into 20 hours of config instead of 200 hours for an
Right.
org. So
Yeah. And I'm really, really happy that you're making this affordable for small nonprofits. That's the space that I tend to work in. And it's hard, because they have limited resources. They don't have
for
the
sure.
skills or the money and what have you. So
Yeah.
$30 a month is very affordable for this
Yeah.
package. Yeah.
Yeah. And if if you do consulting, I mean, that's one of the design things. I mean, the whole idea of moving the form builder out of Flow was knowing that if you're working with a small nonprofit, they might not want to ever, or you might not want them to touch the flow, but you
Yeah.
can still give them the ability to make changes. Oh, we had to add this new field. Adding the new field doesn't change If it doesn't change the business process, the automation in the background, then you can hand it off to your very entry level system admins at a local nonprofit. And they can still somewhat manage their stuff. I mean, I've had a lot of success with training non-Salesforce admins, just program managers at small nonprofits to own their program applications and their form components. And then I can just focus on the flows and not have to do the tedious things of changing field labels, of updating text when a program year changes over. And so.
That's awesome. All right. Well, thank you everyone for coming this Saturday, and please join our LinkedIn group if you'd like to get a copy of the recording, and also stay in touch with events that we're going to be scheduling in the future. And Bobby, thank you again, and have a wonderful rest of your Saturday, and we'll see you all next month.
Thank you, everyone.
All right. Aloha. Oh, Robert, the recording will be posted on our LinkedIn page. Here, I'll post the URL. I should have that up in the next few days. I've got some projects that are going on right now, but I will, because I have this whole process with YouTube and all of that, but it'll be up in a few days, and then I'll post it on the page. So if you join, then you'll get a notification that the posting is up. All right. Thank you, everyone. Aloha.